And welcome to the weekly ward. This week, the weekly axe, bi-weekly ward, whatever you want to call it. Hello, everyone. This is another week of Weekly Ward, the XLNC League podcast series, where you've got a caster from all three of our major leagues here today, along with a very special guest, another really top tier player coming in from the mid league today. Starting things off here for the light league, my name is Mr. Moose. I'm joined here by a mid league representative. It is the Pawn Star, pardon me, the PwnStarShibby. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. My football team just won. I got to see 2 weeks of Mingos recently. I'm kind of hyped to talk about mid league, and I know Confounder is as well.
Heck yeah, and then going down the line, one also shout out to Confounder. We do have a great ADC coming in from, I believe, the fourth place team in the mid league right now, Cape Dogs
Yep,
Valor. Confounder,
tied for
how you
fourth.
doing today?
Pretty good. I just got into my diamond promos off the back of a 4-22 Lucian game, so
Okay,
really
hey,
great.
hey, in the chat, we got to give best of lucks over to potentially a diamond player here on the stream. And rounding it out, the one, the only, the man with the plan, the man with the axes, it is Axeman going to be joining us here for the Heavy League. Axeman, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. It's my week. They told me I had to do it last minute. I told them it's going to look a little different. They said, "Fine, just do it, man. Whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Well, and here we are."
Hey, I want to shout out the adjustments that you've made to the platform. I see it, and I see you. Shout out to the wildcard cap as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's my team.
There you go. There you go. So should be another fun week for us for sure. Before we get any further started into it, I also want to give a couple of shout outs to some people behind the scenes. Shout out as always to XLNC, the production that is involved with this, and all the work that a ton of other people within the XLNC staff, including Jake and the rest of the staff, being able to come in and help us get everything situated. Shout out to Camcom as well. Is, I believe, playing right now in her mid league matchups, which is why she is attending or not attending at this moment. But definitely best of luck to her and appreciate her for what she did and helping us out with building kind of a script as well. But yeah, if you guys were here last week, and if you guys weren't here last week, we're gonna get things started with a little bit of talk about the Light League. We're gonna go through all of the leagues. We're gonna have a couple of different conversations about League of Legends in general, and hopefully give you guys some entertaining and witty banter. That is the goal. That is the show for sure. Before we get any further into Light League, which is going to be kind of like where I am at here, Shibby, I want to just get your talks. I want to have just a quick rundown of like what did we, if we didn't watch Mid League this week, what did we miss out on?
I think with mid league, we are really starting to cement like who the upper crust of the league is, in my opinion. And I know Confounder would kind of agree with me, and really who is in that playoff hunt. Like we have a solid bottom four. We have a really solid number one team in CB Rush. Like these guys are just like the bullies of the playgrounds. But it gets really, really interesting when you start hitting that second to fourth place or second to third, second to fourth, and then when you get to that fourth to sixth place playoff run, right? That's where it's like I would say the most exciting and the most competitive. And then you definitely have, obviously, unfortunately, you do have the bottom four. There always is going to be a bottom four, but even those guys, two of those teams in the bottom four can definitely surprise some people based off of strength of schedule. But yeah, it's Mingo Mania, really, these past 2 weeks. They got two stream games in the past 2 weeks, and they definitely were there to entertain.
Absolutely. And now jumping over to UX, man, Heavy League kind of still ramping up here as we're getting started. What what did we miss if we did not watch Heavy League last week, and what do we have to look forward to coming into next week?
So if you didn't watch last week, you missed out. We had a guest caster come in, and Huey. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Getting to see him cast with Cam, and then I was on the desk with Cam too, so we were kind of short staffed. But yeah, great set of games. Lotus actually ended up dropping dropping a couple of games. There's no more undefeated teams in Heavy League or in any XLNC League here in Week 4, which is kind of exciting, right? It's good to see the teams start to close the gaps between each other and get a little bit more competitive.
Absolutely. That's the plan and that's the goal. Heavy League is actually, I mean, it's turning up the heat. And I'm glad that we've gotten that started a little bit later than some of the other leagues because it keeps the entertainment going longer because it's there. And now, Confounder, I haven't forgotten about you, Confounder. I want to ask you a question. In
Right.
terms of your experience, I mean, obviously you're an ADC main. Um, Other than ADC, what is the most valuable role, in your opinion, on the Rift? And in terms of mid league, what team or what role do you think is the most highly valued in the games that you have played in, I guess, the, 7 weeks you guys have played so far? Or 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely jungle. It's gonna have to be the jungle. You impact all 3 lanes. It is the hardest role as well. It is the role that if you are a captain of a team, you can definitely apply the way you see the game to each lane. Can you remind me the second half of your question?
That's basically it. Just, what do you think is the most valuable role in the mid league? And you answered it pretty well, so good job. Appreciate you. Yeah. And before we go any further, get kind of segues in, kind of like jungle is kind of like the river. Want to shout out hydration as well. I'm drinking my water. I got my water here. Hydration, homie Moose coming in. PwnStar, I have to ask, what are we drinking tonight?
I do have my water. It's actually back there right now. I'm also a hydro homie. I would say it's on the bottom of my desk here. I've got no secret juice, no ales, nothing like that going on here. Just water for me.
You're telling me you don't have the Kool-Aid ready to go?
No, I have nothing like that. I'm not drinking any Kool-Aid unless it's mango flavored.
Oh, there you go, Axeman. What does Axeman drink on a daily basis? What is he drinking now?
I am drinking an unidentified liquid that is in this Powerade bottle.
Okay.
And it is orange, and it's good.
It's delicious. That's what's
Can't
up.
say name brands on the stream.
Hey.
So
Hey.
Definitely looked like apple juice to me.
yeah, yes, it was. It was apple juice. That's correct.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So we got water from 3 of us, and we've got an unidentified liquid, a UFL as it were, coming in from Axeman. All right, enough of the introductions, enough of that like light banter that's coming in. Let's talk about the light league, guys. That's where I come in. That's kind of where I've been for the last several weeks. We just finished week 6, and if you guys are looking at the screen right now, you've got five teams all above 10 wins right now going into week 7 with Cape Dogs Unleashed at 11-7. Had a phenomenal 3-0 against VVU Neon, currently the 7th ranked team that you see. I would highly recommend, guys, gals, unicorns, gators, I don't care what you are, if you guys have the time, you have to watch Game 1 between VBU Neon and Cape Dogs Unleashed. It was a 45-minute banger of a match, and I can't spoil it for you. It was an exciting twist and turn battle that inevitably Cape Dogs wins, but oh man, it was such a treat, such a delight. Probably the game of the season so far. But looking at the split, looking at the season real quick, guys, I want to point out you've got 4 teams that are above 10 wins right now, and you've got a very close tie in 6th place. Kind of a theme here coming in between mid league and heavy league, where it seems like the first 5 teams of the league are kind of all solidified in being able to make playoffs, and we're all trying to figure out where the last spot and who the last spot is going to go to.
I think with Light League specifically, when I'm looking at the standings, what I'm looking at, it seems like you guys have a very solid. Here's our top 5, and then here's our bottom 5. Right? It's and it's like it doesn't feel like number 6 can beat number 5 or number 7 can beat number 5, but it feels like 5 through 1, like on any given day, whatever team is kind of playing better. Even you can look at Obsidian, right? They dropped 2 games there. it feels like the 4 can take on 1, the 2 can take on 5, but anything below that, no one can really challenge that top 5. So that 6th playoff spot, I mean, I don't want to be negative or anything like that, but it feels like that 6th seed is going to have a really, really rough time in Light League.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up probably the best point here. We had probably the most important matchup in terms of seeding coming into the playoffs. Be played last week. It was Grin Reapers versus Divine Ascension Obsidian. It ended up being that Divine Ascension Obsidian ends up keeping that top spot. Grin Reapers dropping 2 games there, and giving DAO a run for their money. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I was able to watch a little bit of the series. I did get replays, and I was able to see it on a Twitch channel. So shout out again to Void and Billy Willard as well for giving me that valuable content coming through. But I mean, those were some banger games as well. But with Divine Ascension being able to get the wins necessary, they are the first team to actually be able to confirm their playoff spots. There's no way that they're not going to be able to make playoffs at this point. Grin Reapers Grin Reapers, Degenerates, and Lotus most likely confirmed, especially with Lotus at 12-6 right now, going to be getting a week 8 bye, I believe. So they're going to be able to get to about that 15 win mark. And then Cape Dogs Unleashed, like last week was such a major week for them. They have been on the up and up. When they started in the split, guys, like they were in 7th place, like 6th place, trying to be able to make things going, and then they've had great game after great game. Their momentum has been building up, and they've been able to get a 4-game win advantage against the number 6 seed Central Sentinels, which again, confirms all of that coming through. My prediction, just like in terms of like seeding and all that fun stuff, maybe Degenerates Ascension is going to be able to take Grin Reapers on. Maybe DAO drops a couple of games, and maybe they come in to a 2nd seed and get that first round bye. Lotus Black does have some roster issues, which, they're the defending champions. They did have some roster issues that will be resolved before the end of the split, before the end of the regular split season. But for now, they've got to be worried about that. So they're probably not going to be able to get to a 1st or 2nd seed spot. So definitely leaves the door open for potentially a Degenerates 1st or 2nd seed, maybe a Cape Dogs 1st or 2nd seed if they're really lucky. Other than that, though, like, oh man, the race for 6th place is bloody and scary moving into week 7.
Yeah, and when I was looking at, last week's and the couple weeks before, it really felt like Central Sentinels was like they could be a top team. Like it felt like they had the pieces there, they had the components, and like you said, Cape Dogs kind of just on an updraft or some sort. Maybe it's meta. Maybe they've kind of figured themselves out. They've also got a little bit of help, like you said, right, with some teams having roster issues and all that sort of fun stuff that they've kind of pushed through the bottom pack, right? As I would say, the bottom 4, the bottom 5, and they've, like you said, cemented themselves as a top 5 team or as a team that can challenge and punch up in their weight. What do you think is happening, Moose, when there's that clear divide of like here's 5 and then big gap and then the bottom 5, when there were some teams like CB Stonk and Central Sentinels in my mind that looked very, very strong? Is it just teams are starting to get figured out, more games ramping up, synergy? Is it kind of like these are a bunch of pieces of the pie?
Mm-mm. It definitely was, coming into week 4. There was definitely a divide in the top 3 teams. Lotus Black, Divine Ascension Obsidian, and Grin Reapers were like undoubtedly top 3 coming into week 5. Week 6, week 7, or we finished week 5, we finished week 6, and Cape Dogs Unleash goes, I believe, 6-0, which, propels them way above all of the other teams that were further down into the pack. And so what was once this 3-man like advantage for the top spot, with Cape Dogs being able to take wins off of Lotus Black, being able to really show a lot of really good performances in their week 5, week 6 showing. Like in week 5, looking at Cape Dogs Unleashed, taking on Team Ambition Golden Age, which was a team that came in later in the split and just winning against them 2-1. They've had 3-0. they've had a 3-0 series on week 4, a 2-1 series in week 5, and then a 3-0 series in week 6. That really just opened up the split for them, but closed off a lot of opportunities going on further down the line. Confounder, I want to ask you because I mean, looking at Cape Dog's Valor right now, you guys are 9-9, 4th place.
Hmm.
What I mean for you as a player, like, what are you looking at going into week 7? Like, what's the mentality that you're thinking about going into these crucial weeks moving forward, and how do you think that teams like Central Sentinels and CB Stonk Squad need to be preparing moving forward?
So, interestingly enough, I've gone over the standings and the strength of schedule, as I think should be mentioned earlier. Um, for mid league, uh, Cape Dogs, Buckies, and everything above that are pretty much guaranteed to make playoffs,
Mhm.
just due to the way the numbers work out. Um, that means that the last place spot, that 6th place, there are 5 teams vying for that, and all of them are around the same in terms of strength of schedule. And so, for me personally, I'm chilling, right? I don't have much to worry about.
Okay, fair
But
enough.
the only way for Bucky's Stratosphere and Cape Dog's Valor to drop from 4th area down into something like 7th through 10th is if we lose literally every single game against teams who are below us. And so if we expect not to choke, then we'll definitely be in playoffs. What that causes is that 5-way tie for the last place. It sounds like something very similar is happening in Light League, where there's a bunch of teams stacked at the bottom that are vying for that last spot.
Mhm.
So next 3 weeks, definitely keep an eye out on how they perform.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Axeman, asking. I want to talk with you
Yeah.
about it as well. I want to ask you the. I want to ask you the. I want to ask you kind of the same question. And kind of get like maybe the heavy league opinion on that one, because you've got a couple of teams now there in the lower side of your bracket that are vying for a 4th. It's still earlier in your league, but like, what is what do you have to look at? What's the strategy that you think like a 5th place team or a 6th place team needs to go for to be able to stay in that spot, keep their position in playoffs, but then also what does it take for a 7th and 8th place team to actually rally and get to that position to get into the playoffs to begin with?
So Moose, is a couple of things that like any diamond all the way down in any league like this you're going to be looking at is just sometimes the better teams just have higher solo queue ranks. There's a couple more things going on here in heavy league. It's not really just as simple as that. I think that's playing into it. It's a trend across the teams. If you're higher ranked in solo queue, you're probably on a better XLNC heavy league team. But also, a really big factor in the difference between these teams is just how long they've been playing together. We have some of the teams in the heavy league that just formed like days before the league started, like 4Monkeys, one coach, and one of the AOE teams too. And you'll notice that those teams are not in the top half of the bracket, right? It's just AOE Hope that's third there, and they've been playing together for a while actually. But so I think as the league progresses, as we get further in, you'll definitely see some teams on the bottom starting to move up a little bit more. We already saw that actually in week 2, or in week 3, excuse me, with 4Monkeys, one coach, and them actually trying to take some games off of better teams, and they looked a lot better than they did in week 1 when we streamed them. They had made some roster changes, definitely looked a lot better as far as just a strategy standpoint is concerned, and you could see them start to close the gap and start to make an argument for why they shouldn't be dead last in this league. And they're still there right now, but already you're starting to see some improvement there. They got 3 wins going into week 4 here, and honestly, I'm pretty optimistic about their chances. Most of the other teams as well that just formed recently, I think they're getting better and better as the league progresses.
Absolutely. Definitely like cohesion and synergy is two big words, two 5-cent words that really take into account what is necessary for a team to be able to either make playoffs or not make playoffs.
Yeah.
For sure. Shibby, what you got?
I I I was just adjusting my mic, but I
Oh,
think I no, but no,
I
I
can jump in. Oh, sorry. Good.
yeah, I can definitely keep going. I can definitely keep talking about Light League in general. I mean, I kind of just wanted to, see when you talk about synergy and cohesion, right? And like you said, in Light League, we have quite a few teams that have come back from the previous season. You obviously have the winners of last season. You actually have a lot of these organizations that are in Light and Mid League that these guys probably scrim each other, right? Like the
Yeah.
Glacial guys, the CB guys, the Cape Dogs, the Divine Ascension Emeralds. Um, these kind of guys, even Lotus, even the Lotus boys, when you're scrimming, when these guys are scrimming, inter scrimming each other, I would say, or inter organization scrimming, right? We heard last week, where I believe it was, I'm
Pony
sorry,
Goat.
yeah, Pony Goat. He said like when we scrim above, like it feels like we just can't win. It feels like we can't do anything, right? And i- when it comes to cohesion and stuff like that, it feels like a lot of these guys, like you said, like Axeman said, these guys were just picked up like off the street, almost like, hey, we need a team, right? We need to make a
Yeah.
team, and they're put
Mhm.
under this organization, and these guys are going against teams that have been together for a year and a half, and it kind of feels unbeatable. Is that kind of what's happening in Light League?
I would say I would say that there are definitely advantages for a lot of these teams that are being able to just to talk about the like being able to get scrims because it's very important for anyone to be able to get that off tournament experience to be able to hone their craft, get a little bit more communication and not be in a flex situation. You want to be able to go into a tournament setting and or a pseudo tournament setting and try to be able to perform well when it comes into that play. I mean, looking at the players and the teams that are performing really well, segueing into kind of the MVP ratings for XLNC right now for the Light League. You've got Vixis, who's from Degenerates, nice big organization. You've got Wasp KGB, who's from Divine Obsidian, who's also a very uh, it's a little bit of a difference, I guess, with Wasp or KGB and then Polygoat. They've got their organization and they've got their scrims that are coming through, and so you've got those players that are in the top five. Like you look at the top five actually from XLNC MVP ratings, you've got three members of DAO and you've got one member of Degenerates, and then you've got the dad who I believe is from Team Ambition Golden Age. So maybe that's a little bit skewed there in that regard. But that's also another major organization that's involved within the league. It definitely feels like there's a specific advantage that comes in with that, right? Because you look at another team like VBU Neon, for example, like ninth or seventh place right now, they just built this team. They have some players that are veterans of the league and of XLNC, but I don't know if they have the actual backing to or from whatever organization that they're playing with to get into those higher level scrims. I don't know for sure. That's something that's my bad for not keeping track on that and knowing all the organizations and how powerful and what like connections they have. So part of me, VBU, if you're actually like a multi-million-dollar organization, please sponsor me. I please, I need it. CB Stock Squad as well. I mean, the
Please.
same thing. Please, please. Um, but yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you experience, and knowledge is power, and experience is knowledge. So very excited to see what that brings to the table here moving into week 7. Some pretty exciting games. Definitely do not want to miss next week. A big game for Cape Dog, or in the show match, Cape Dogs Unleash up against CB Stonk Squad. Basically, with week 7 coming through, if Cape Dogs Unleashed is able to go for a 3-0 sweep against CB Stonk Squad, that pretty much eliminates them at that point. They don't get a bye, and Team Ambition Golden Age, the last place team, do get a bye in week 9. Um, Lotus Black gets a bye, which is their confirming of playoffs, but losing those 3 games could be catastrophic to their chances to be able to win the game, and at that point, it could just be over. So, really big matchup coming in for both teams, coming in for Week 7 here in the Light League. Before we go any further, want to shout out again Bixus being the top-rated player at the XLNC MVP rating, followed by KGB or Wasp, and then the dad, Ponygoat, and Void. So 3 members of DAO in the MVP rating standings in the top 5. Definitely really cool. And my last point that I want to talk about, that I want to touch on Light League, is the elephant in the room, the man, the myth, the Mordekaiser himself, the most banned champion in Light League. He remains the most banned champion. No one going to Brazil here today and in the Light League. That's absolutely not. Um, it's really interesting to see because you also get to see that Aurelia there as well. But again, shout out to Mordekaiser, really making everyone scared, scared of the hammer, scared of the man, for sure.
I know I am. Champion's terrifying.
It's
Yo,
it's so weird, right? Because we've decided to do this weekly, or in this case bi-weekly ward every 2 weeks, right? And Riot is releasing patches every 2 weeks. We're giving the time for the meta to develop in XLNC specifically, and it looks for Light League, and it's pretty similar for Mid League, unfortunately, that a lot of the most picked champions and the most banned champions have relatively stayed the same since last time we spoke, right? The Leona for Light League, the Trundle, the Zinzao. It's only really that Irelia and Ashe that has been banned more often. And I just think that's because more people have gotten hands with Irelia, right? They're playing her more. They're realizing like how disgusting that champion is, in my opinion, when she got that mini rework. And obviously, Moose, this kind of harps onto a bigger issue, but I would just love to get both Confounders and Axeman's, of course, thoughts on this.
So with respect to, I would say the meta in mid league, it seems to be very early game centered champions. Those seem to be the ones who are having the most success. The J4s, the Tristanas, the sets, even. Um, Interestingly enough, Xin Zhao, despite being one of the, I think it's 6th highest pick rate, he's sitting at a 37% win rate. And similarly for popular ADCs like Ezreal, Ashe, ADCs that you would consider to be very stable laners that won't get blown out. But the name of the game seems to be pick something like a Tristana and just run it down bot lane, take plates very early on, accrue a very large advantage, especially through your jungler if you're pairing it with a J4. They can both tower dive very easily. You pair it with a support like Thresh. You can pair it with I've seen Leonas, I've seen Rels, and you just play for bot lane. You get very far ahead. You start taking dragons. You rotate around, and you just end the game before scaling AD carries can get their items.
hmm. Man, that actually brings up a really interesting point. And then I want Axeman to talk about this because I think it works really, I think, gets highlighted more in Heavy League because you get those higher tiered players that come through. Taking a look at champions that have not been on the most picked ban or the most picked champion list, the most banned champion list. No Viego, no Gwen, no Auction. I mean, Auction's a little bit of an outlier because he's not been around that much, but definitely Gwen and Viego for sure. For those champions, a theme I think coming in from Riot, especially now that Vex has come out. We could talk about Vex maybe a little bit as well. All 4 of the champions that have come out here in 2021 have all been these high scaling, very high damage champion as you move into the mid game, move into the late game. Why, Axeman, do you think we, other than the fact that we don't see scaling, is or because of what Confounder was saying in the mid league, is the same thing happening in the heavy league where we're worried more about getting that early game snowball going, where that late game power that Viego and Gwen bring to the table are there, or is it a different reason maybe why those champions are getting picked or banned?
So, just to provide some context, a lot of the games in Heavy League, especially the games that have been on stream, have been pretty one-sided just as far as like I don't want to say skill level, but you got teams that, once again, just came together on week 1, and they're trying to take down teams that have been together for like months. And a point I wanted to illustrate through this is that there are no robot teams in Heavy League. They're all very intelligent, very good players, high platinum, diamond elo, and they draft accordingly, right? So when you go into a draft and you're not predicted to win, you're the underdog, you draft a certain way, right? You draft super early game, you draft for early game skirmishes for dragon control because those things are easy to execute. And they're also really difficult to deal with unless the enemy team is drafting to be able to deal with them. So not only are you giving yourself an advantage in the early game and trying to give yourself a way to get that snowball going, you're also putting the enemy at a disadvantage by picking like super meta picks like the Viego, the Gwen you're talking about, because they're gonna have to wait for you to at least try your best to get that snowball rolling before they can get anywhere off the ground. And it's dynamic from both sides, right? We had top teams picking things that they wouldn't normally pick just to try and not really keep up, but make sure they have a fighting chance, because we don't play best of threes, right? We play 3 blocks. If you drop a game, that counts against you, right? So you can't troll draft at any point during the night because you want to make sure you're winning all 3 games into a team that's bottom of the barrel as far as this league is concerned. Meanwhile, if you're one of those bottom teams, you just need 1 game off of that team, and it counts for so much towards your bottom line, right? So you're trying constantly to find that early game, not cheese necessarily, but definitely it's like underdog strats. And we see that almost constantly. If there is a close matchup in Heavy League, and there have been, it is a knockdown, drag-out brawl, like all game long, because teams are finally like, what can I win on? And they're drafting comfort picks and trying to adapt drafts and stuff like that. Nobody's like just B1ing Jinzhao trying to play the meta. It's just not happening.
And I mean, I feel like this is an overarching problem, right, within light and mid league. And Moose, you can talk about it, Confounder, of course. But I've always had this issue where it's the reluctance of teams. I think this kind of happens in heavy league too, where like these guys, like you said, the value of 1 game is apparent across all leagues, light, mid, and heavy. We all play block of 3.
Yeah.
And if you're a lower tier team, you want to try to like get that like sneak a win, right? You want to sneak a win. So where are these teams, and why aren't they picking stuff up like the Sona that got recently reworked, right? And she's busted. She's been doing really, really good. The Dr. Mundo that got recently reworked and has been getting a bunch of hidden buffs, right? We did see a bit of Tom Kench here and there, but then he dropped off the face of the planet. New Lucian, right? New Lucian's really good. And these are just reworked champions. These aren't new champions that have been released like the Gwen, like the Akshan, like the Viego. And Akshan's had a bit of time, right? He got released in August. We're 3 months in now. He's had some time for players to develop. Like, where is the reluctance, or why is there reluctance from a lot of these teams picking these newer champions that are clearly good and are clearly succeeding in solo queue at least? And why are we just seeing the same stuff? Why are we seeing Zinzao? Why are we seeing Leona, Nautilus? Why aren't we seeing more Soraka, Sona, these kinds of enchanters that have been getting insanely buffed? Like it's just an issue I have overall across XLNC. So it's just something I wanted to talk about.
If I were to, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I want co-founder. I want Confounder's
Okay.
like opinion on this. Please take the stage.
So, if I were to venture a guess, I would say it has a lot, it has much to do with scrim results. I noticed that in scrims, people do pull out those picks. They pull out, like, I've seen Sona Seraphine bot lane, and I just respond Lulu Cog and they die. Like, you can try those interesting picks that are off meta and new picks that people haven't quite figured out yet. But when it comes to game day, you pull out what you're good at. You pull out what you know, because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the one who's running it down. And so you pick the Tristanas, you pick the J4s, you pick the Ezreals, even if it doesn't do that great, because it's stable, it works, it isn't going to lose you the game. Like, for example, a champion like Tryndamere. If you pick Tryndamere in the wrong spot, you just lose the game. But if you pick him in the right spot, oh man, he does damage, right? And so those interesting quirky picks that Shibby mentioned, it's not that they don't work. I think it's largely psychological, but also scrim results. If you're not practiced on it, you scrim, you lose to Scrim, then you go, that reinforces the idea that it's not very good, and maybe it's just, maybe it's just not that great. So I think that plays a very large part in terms of the uniformity that you see in terms of pick bans.
That's a pretty well thought out answer there. That's like 10 out of 10. Yeah, I was like, shout out to Confounder as well. He came into the chat just like real quick. He came into the chat in XLNC just a little before the show started, and he's got notes. He's ready for this transition into the mid league, and we've got a lot to
Yep.
talk about when it comes to mid league, Shibby. I mean, I'm passing the torch over because mid league is insane.
I I think that's an understatement. I mean, Confounder would tell you that mid league being insane is a bit of an understatement right now.
It is.
I think there is obviously one team at the top. It's CB
Oh
Rush.
yeah, for
No
sure.
lie. They dropped a game for sure. Look, they dropped the game, but they have not dropped like a series, right? It's 2-1 across the board, 3-0s mostly across 6 weeks of gameplay, which is just kind of insane to me, right? Not dropping a game across essentially 6 weeks. I mean, it's clear that they're the top, but like we mentioned earlier in the intro, 2 through 4, very, very competitive, right? You have Confounder's team with the Cape Dogs. You have the Mingos, who are just an anomaly right now. You have DA Emerald, who clearly is trying to cement their place as second place. But yeah, the Mingos are an anomaly because these guys are going up 2-0 and then doing that like Make a Mingo Foundation where they're like subbing a random guy in, like a fan, right? So
They did
you
that
don't
to us game 3. They
yeah,
swapped
yeah.
everyone's roles around. Okay, let me say something about this, all right?
How does it feel? I want to know how it feels from a player's perspective.
Yeah, oh,
Do
I'll
you
let you know how
feel
it feels.
disrespect? Do you feel disrespected that they
Oh,
were
it
willing to do
bothered me
that?
so much. They crushed us game 1. It was a draft gap. There's really not much to say about that. Game was hard to play. I'm okay with losing a hard game, right? Game 2
Yeah.
was a banger. It was a 42-minute. It was just a slugfest. Both 80 carries got fed. I misplayed once or twice, and we lost the game because of it. Sad to say, but you know how it is. Game 3, they just put their ADC jungle, their mid laner top, they just subbed everything. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? Because what this does is it creates a situation where we lost the 2 games where they actually played, but we won the game where they didn't. And so now it looks like the only reason we won is because they trolled. And it's like, come on.
Well,
But
whether
I love the banter. I love it. They're hilarious.
and it kind of it's almost a bit of a high IQ move, right? Because it's hard
Oh yeah,
for me to determine how strong they are. Like if you're CB Rush and you're DA Emerald
good
and
point.
you're looking at Glacial Mingos and you're like, wait, are they good? Like they're throwing their game threes. Like they're picking Lucian jungle, Rise jungle. They have like a Make a Mingo Foundation guy here. Like it's good and bad, right? Because I tend to worry for a team like this because as Axeman stated, as Moose has stated, every single game is very, very important, right?
Yep.
Block
Oh
of three
yes,
is important.
absolutely.
Block of three. And those 5 games that they lost, right? I think
Mhm.
4 of those matches was like due to either forfunning the third game, right? Or the Make a Mingo Foundation, like they did with you guys, right? It was, I think, only Bucky was the one that really handed them, I think, a firm 3-0, if I remember correctly. Or I mean, like 2-1, if I remember, if I'm
Yeah.
looking back. So for me, the Glacial Mingos are just an anomaly, right? They are simultaneously either one of the best teams in the league or they are just like they're picking stuff where it feels like, well, like why what are these guys doing? Like they have huge ego and it's fine. I like it. We need a team
Yeah,
like that in mid league. Don't get me
definitely.
wrong. But again, those games, those dropped games affect the standings. Like you got like Cape Dog's Valor is 8-8 because of that, right?
Actually, there's some
Or
interesting
nine and
points
nine.
about the top 3. We're currently 9-9, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
There's some interesting points about the top 3. Um, unless CBR gets 3-0'd, or sorry, unless CBR would have to drop every single game against DAE week 7 in order for them not to be first. And DAE would have to get every single game against the other 2 teams that they play. So realistically, they're pretty much guaranteed first. I don't think that's, I don't think that's a hot take, right? But
No, no.
between DAE and Mingos, Mingos are in a similar situation, like you said, because of the games that they dropped, where they also have to overperform and DAE has to underperform. And so in that situation, the top three are pretty much locked in.
Yeah, it's just buys, right? It's just who gets the buy and who doesn't get the buy, or who wants the buy. And it seems like Glacial Mingos don't care about the buy. Like they care about creating a fan base. They care about all this stuff, and
Right?
um, it gets nice. It gets really competitive when it gets 4 through 7 or 8, in my opinion, right? Unlucky Esports Axolotl is a team that can take games, right? Cape Dog, you guys,
Absolutely.
your team is very, very strong. Bucky is a team that I originally stated was very like underwhelming considering they were last season's playoff team,
Yeah,
right?
they've come up a lot,
Yeah,
definitely.
they've been on the rise. They've been kind of like your light league, like your light league sister team, right? And Cape Dogs in light league, where they've kind of been on the upwind, on the updraft, and they're 9 and
Yeah.
9 now. So
I have their conservative and liberal estimates for the win losses and the outcomes. They're pretty much expected to place about the same as we are. So they're
yeah,
very strong, yeah.
yeah,
And their
Huh.
schedules are easy going forward as well.
and I want to kind of throw it to Axe before Moose. When you get these teams, you've guys have had to had teams where they kind of like, haha, for fun the last game and troll. Has it ever, bit them in the back? Have they ever wished that they would have got that top 2 seed, or are these teams usually, do they regardless they do a deep run in the playoffs?
I don't think they've ever funded like a draft or anything like that. We had one of the teams was farming people under Fountain, which was pretty funny. But no, they're usually pretty disciplined about it. It's been good, and no, I don't think anybody like just loses the discipline towards the end. We even had a team where their jungler DC'd halfway through game 2, and they ran out of stoppage time, so they just had to play the 4v5, and then their jungler didn't come back for game 3. Super tilting, right? But team's still in the league, team's still going strong, still got the same jungler, and they're just working through it, even though that was super tragic. And yeah, it's been nice about Heavy League, just strong mentals all around. It's been pretty cool.
Well, kind of go on to, I guess, the second part of that question is, have you seen teams in Heavy League where, or just in general across amateur, like where them dropping a game or them dropping a block of 3 has kind of got and bitten them in the back, right?
Yeah, you'll definitely see that. You either just make some unfortunate mistakes in one of the games or something like that, or you just lose discipline in certain scenarios, and yeah, you'll definitely lose series. It's something we haven't seen too much in heavy, but yeah, it's definitely something in competitive League of Legends at this level of play that is ever present, right? Team shows up and they got the pool party squad ready to play and not really taking it very seriously, but the skins match, so it's good. But yeah, we see that sometimes. Not in heavy.
Shout out to the skins matching.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
totally down, 100%. Always, if you have all 5 pentakill, you need to have all 5 pentakill skins. Shout out to the new album, by the way. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it a solid banger of a 7. Like barely not an 8, because I don't particularly enjoy that style of music. I want to just go quickly across the board on a scale of 1 to, or have you guys even listened to the Pentakill new to Lost Chapter yet?
I've been listening to it like on and off in my car. It's not something I'm not like a music listener when I'm on my computer, oddly enough, where I'm not like, I'm just gonna listen to music right now. It's a lot of music is when I'm traveling, when I'm driving, I'm a commuter, I'm in the Northern California Bay Area. It's good. I do get some interesting looks from people where they're like, "What are you listening to?" And I say like, I'm listening to like League music, like League of Legends. Riot Games has released this thing, and I just tell them like, look up Lost Chapter. Yeah, I would say 7.5. I would say, but I feel like if you're gonna wait this long to release a Pentakill album after the last one, which was I think phenomenal. I think the last one was really really good.
Yeah.
Um, Delaying this long, like you got to come hard, in my opinion, and unfortunately, it didn't.
What about you, Confounder? Have you listened to the new Pentakill album?
I've not, no,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I'm still down for Burning Bright, Star Guardians. 100%. All the way. 10 out of 10 song. They need a Burning Bright 2.0 coming through in 2022. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Um okay, I wanna touch up on just a quick development in terms of the mid league, because like we were talking about, Camcom is actually participating to be able to, or participating in their matches, and we do get confirmation that they do take 6th place. They end up going 8-10 so far in the league. They take that 6th spot and are now 2 games in the league against Unlucky Esports, Axolotl, and Degenerates Exile.
Nice. There we go.
So
then
they
we
3-0, didn't they? Is that what that means? 3-0? They have
I
8
would assume
wins.
so.
yeah,
Think so,
so
Wow,
then
that's
we
big for the standings, actually. That's huge.
yeah, so now it's, if I get this correctly, it is CB Rush, DA, Mingos, and then Cape and Bucky in 4-5. And
Yep.
then now it's Pup in 6th, right? With
Yeah.
Degenerates and Unlucky kind of trailing behind them. So again, they're like that 6th spot. Like, no offense to Cam, right? I think your team is good. They're really good, but it's the same situation where, like, I don't see Pup beating Mingos. I don't see Pup beating Abstention, and it gets tough when you try to punch up. And Cape Dogs and Bucky are strong teams, right? That 6th seed playoff, like, they're gonna have to play whoever the number 3 seed. I'm assuming the seeding is that way, right? Where 1 and 2 get a bye, 3
Yeah.
plays 6, 4 plays
I
5,
think so, yes.
and if playoffs were to happen right now, Mingos versus Pup, like, I'm sorry, that's just not close. I don't know if Confounder is willing to back up that statement. If he sounds
I
controversial.
agree. The games are very hard. It seems very top heavy and bottom heavy, and then the middle bit is like there's not. It's like an hourglass. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
close in the middle.
yeah. And I wanted to talk about something that you touched up on, Confounder, a little bit
Sure.
a while ago, actually, where it was, teams in light league and mid league are drafting early game champions, taking plates and all that. I'm going through average game time right now, and Moose,
Oh yeah.
nothing's changed for us.
Nope.
It's still 30
Nope.
plus minute games, other than CB Rush, who's kind of closing it out early. These are 30 plus minute games. So what's happening, as a player, Confounder, when you're getting these leads, when you're drafting early game,
Mhm.
but then these games are ending like 35 minutes, 33 minutes. You just said you had like a 45-minute, 42-minute banger in
Yeah.
game 2. Like,
So here's
where's
my
the
theory.
disconnect? Because Axeman has the heavy league, right? And these guys
Mhm.
are sub 30 minutes, 25, 26,
Oh yeah.
27.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where's the disconnect? Where's the disconnect?
Okay.
What's happening?
Here's my theory. So the higher MMR you get, the better you are at pressing those advantages and just grinding their face into the dirt. And because you don't make as many either mechanical or conceptual mistakes, it is very difficult to come back from an early lead or from an early disadvantage if your comp just doesn't have if it just doesn't work. And so
Yep.
in mid league, there are a lot of games where, let's say for example, I'm playing Jinx into Tristana, right? As Jinx, I want to get 3 items. I want it to be 30 minutes, and then I pop off and I win the game off of that. However, um, that doesn't always that just doesn't work against a team who runs a Tristana J4 right down the bottom lane, takes every plate. The reason why the games don't end at 25 minutes instead of 30 is because that last little bit of the game, that's when players start to slip up. That's when the Tristana gets caught when she doesn't need to be. That's when the Jinx gets a triple kill she doesn't need to get. Um, that tiny little bit of margin of error, I think that's what constitutes the extra game time. And that's why you see CB Rush with a very low game time, almost 5 minutes before every other team, is because they don't make the mistakes. They're incredibly consistent. Their AD carry never dies. He averages like what, 1.6 deaths a game? Something ridiculous like that. I killed him once in a team fight and I was so happy, right? Like but yeah, I mean it's consistency, I think.
And I guess, Axe, we can go to you.
Yeah.
What sort of plays are the heavy league teams doing when they have this lead that, like, you would say mid league and light league? Like specifically, are they just setting up Baron better? I mean, you can obviously say that, okay, they push advantages really well. That's a very general, broad term. They play with gold leads very well. But what are they doing like in the game to where their gold lead is making sense? Are they funneling kills into the right person? Are they taking towers at the right time? Are they resetting together? Baron objective, jet up, all this kind of like what's happening in Heavy League in that
So
aspect.
I think one big difference between the leagues is how the players approach competitive League of Legends just as a whole. And the difference is they're in between competitive and solo queue. You have teams that are taking things like tempo really seriously, making sure that they're first on the objective, that they have first move on the ganks, have lane prio when they're going for a play. Even just from the draft as well, you have teams that are going for those big early skirmish comps, big wombo combos. You got bot lanes that are like a Moo Misfortune. They're not trying to win late game. If the game goes past 25 minutes, they just lose, and they're okay with that. Either because they weren't really supposed to win this game, or because they want to get out of here in an hour, and they think that's the fastest way to do it. So, yeah, no matter which side of the coin you're on, you just don't want to draft 4 tanks in a Vayne. It's not effective, because no one on some of these teams is good enough to like take a game off of Lotus by playing that way. And if you're Lotus, it's just you're wasting your time. You don't need to draft something like that to win games against teams. So, yeah, I talked about it already. Discrepancy of skill in Heavy League is definitely a big thing. Boils down to players that haven't played competitive League of Legends at all, and are just kind of diamond players. And also teams haven't been together very long, so they're playing from behind, trying to draft things that are going to give them an edge, and they either fail spectacularly or succeed spectacularly.
There you go. I mean, that's a pretty valid, I think, a valid statement to say for sure. Like just across the board. I want to go like just to again point out the time difference in between games. Like Light League, 31-minute games for our top rated team, and it's just such a different game, and that's what makes I think the differences between Light League, Mid League, and Heavy League so cool is that you can clearly see a difference. Like, yes, maybe you could say maybe the top tier teams in Light League could potentially take on and beat the bottom 3 teams in Mid League, and the same could be said between Mid League and Heavy League, maybe potentially. But there is, major differences in macro control, in awareness, in what a kill and what an objective means for these teams moving into the 20-minute mark, moving into the 25-minute mark, moving into the end game, whatever X needs to be. There's that huge difference coming through. And so I'm really excited to see how the Heavy League and just how all of these leagues play out. I want to move into the Heavy League though. I do want to talk about that a little bit more and just talking about some of the teams in general, seeing like your preliminary thoughts as we move into week 5, I believe, or Axeman coming into the next week. I want to talk to Confounder and Shibby a little bit more. I want to get your predictions now with Pup taking 6th place in the standings. Are you predicting a Pup stay, or are you predicting something else?
How spicy do you want this? Do you want me to say who wins mid league right now if playoffs were to start? Like, who do I think is gonna win mid league overall? Like, what are you looking for, Moose? What are you trying to fish out of me?
I'm trying to. I don't go into playoffs with this team is going to win, because I've watched enough basketball and I've seen the Golden State Warriors take 73 or like 74 wins in a season and lose out and not be able to finish the job and win the season. I want to ask, I guess, 2 questions then. I think seeding for the first round buys are confirmed. I want to know who you think is going to face off against CB Rush in round 2. And I want to know who you think is going to take that 6th seed.
Okay. So just to be sure, top 2 is pretty much confirmed, right? It's
Right.
At least CB Rush, like you said, has the buy guaranteed, right? So the 6th
Right.
place right now is Pup, and then we have 4 and 5 between Bucky and Cape, and those are just that boils down to who does better in their last couple weeks, right? Strength of
Mhm.
schedule, like Confounder was saying, like their schedule. Cape Dogs have a pretty hard schedule. They've played like all the teams above them, right?
Yep.
Bucky have played quite
One
a bit
thing
of
about
teams.
that,
Oh,
Bucky's and Cape Dogs, we play each other next week, and I
exactly.
think it's changed. And so I think the way that goes, um, whether we 2-1 or 1-2 or what have you, that'll be a tiebreaker for if we tie each other because it's very
Yep.
likely that we will.
That's the head to head, right? That also is the
Yep.
head to head. So, um, I think for sure CB Rush. I think this stays. The top 3 stays. I think Mingo's just the fact that they are willing to forfun their last game is just they're gonna stay at third. I don't think Bucky or Cape Dog unfortunately make that run up. Just because if Mingo's just 2-1s everybody, or other than CB Rush in the last week they play, they'll pretty much I reliably think will 2-1 everybody. So that'll put them firmly in that third place spot. I think I'm gonna say Cape takes fourth and Bucky goes fifth, and I think Pup actually may lose out to Unlucky Axolotl. I think Unlucky Axolotl actually takes that sixth place spot, and that is just based off of they're my dark horse team, the Axolotls, and I think that their mid laner is just really good. Like their mid laner is really good for a team that just like it feels like they have like a one-dimensional play style. But if you look at a lot of the games that they've played, these are like razor thin games. Like there was one of the games they were streamed. Their mid laner just got caught by like a random thresh hook and they lost the game where he was like solo carrying on Cassiopeia. So strength wise, I think Unlucky if they can get it together, will get that sixth place spot. But yeah, I don't think like Grid or GCG or any of these guys really kind of make a push for it. Unfortunately, we do have our bottom 4, bottom 3. It's just for me, it's Pup and Unlucky, and I'm kind of a hottish take here. I think it's Unlucky that takes the sixth seed. Sorry,
Nice.
Fair enough. There you go.
Confounder.
Um, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said except for that last sixth place. I think given that Poros just, if I'm getting this right, they just 3-0'd, that should shoot them a fair bit up in terms of that bandwidth between the minimum and the maximum uh in terms of their expectations. I think they are definitely going to clinch it if they continue to perform like they are. I think everything else in terms of like playoffs, I think it's going to be exactly how it currently is, with CB Rush taking first, DA taking second, Mingo's getting third, and then between Cape Dogs and Bucky's, it's just going to be, you know, it's just going to be how it goes with that.
Well,
But yeah.
yeah, just that last thing, just that last point. The reason I'm doing that sixth place trade is just because Unlucky has the head to head against Pup. So
Oh, do
if I'm
they?
bet, yeah, they have the
Oh,
Unlucky
interesting.
2-1 against Pup. So
Oh, I see
it's
where you're
that's
going with
why
this. I see.
that's why where it's like if Unlucky just wins their games and Pup can't sneak out a win against one of
Mm.
the other teams, then that's where Unlucky kind of takes that sixth place spot. So for me, it's Pup has to overperform and Unlucky just has to perform, kind of, and that's where that switches for
Ooh.
me. So that's purely because of the head to head, purely because of the head to head.
Two things of interest. One, it seems like Unlucky, they fight Bucky's and Glacial Mingos the last 2 weeks. How are you expecting those games to go?
Mingos will go 2-1. That's I just feel like that's a guarantee, unfortunately. So that's they pick up a win there. But I think also with if I'm looking into week 7 with Pup
Mhm.
plays Mingos week 7, right? And that'll go 2-1. So that's a wash, right? Both of those teams will pick up a win and they'll lose 2. Week 8 and 9, it's Pup has to go against Bucky. And then week
Mhm.
9, Pup has to go against GCG Legion. And that's like that trap game. I'm an NFL fan, and like trap games are so prevalent in the NFL. That's why it scares me. Where if Pup don't perform, and like I said, Unlucky can sneak those wins in, where
Mhm.
I know they have like a solid carry threat, they just sneak in, right? Unlucky just sneaks in. So it's 2-1 washed for both of them against Mingos, And then yeah, like you said, it's really Bucky's. It depends on which Bucky wants to play, right? Is it the Tails Bucky that like drafts really weird, kind of throws in the mid game, or is it that high tempo, like fast Bucky's team that like wants to smash your face in and draft super really well, right? If for me, Bucky's is that kind of like Jekyll and Hyde kind of team.
Well, I feel extremely informed, and I think you're absolutely right. Insane is not enough of an understatement. Is so much of an understatement about what mid league is bringing to the table here this split. I'm really excited to see what comes out of this one, because the next time that we'll be seeing this, it'll be near the end of the split, and so things will be more confirmed. But now we get to save the best for Axeman. We got the heavy league. We got to talk about the dominance that we've seen from the first and second place finishes, but not necessarily confirmed just yet. On the rest of the seeding, everything's seeming pretty close there. You gotta detail it out for me, Axeman. What you got?
So it was super hard to draw a read on this league from week one. The show matchup we had week one was Death Cards into 4 Monkeys 1 Coach, and Death Cards just 3-0'd them, just like straight out of there. No one was really expecting it, because for starters, Death Cards wouldn't do an interview with us for week one, so we were kind of like, who are these guys? What's going on? And then 4 Monkeys 1 Coach gave us this like massive interview. They're like, these are our teams, these are our players, this is what we've been doing and what we've been doing to practice. And we were like, oh yeah, okay, cool. 4 Monkeys 1 Coach, yeah, just got demolished, absolutely demolished. And then week 2 came back with a different roster. We're back on the show for week 3, and totally different team there. And by that time, by week 3, STC Death Cards had been almost undefeated, dropped a single game. So you're looking at a team that we had no idea what to think about, and we're still not sure how high this team can climb, right? They only dropped that one game since then, and they have taken games off of Lotus, who we have had through the power rankings all of the weeks so far in this league. We're about halfway through it. Lotus has been number 1 and continues to be number 1. And a lot of us don't put Death Cards even in top 3, let alone top 2, which is kind of nuts because they don't lose a lot of games. But for me, at least, when I do power rankings, I'm thinking about org strength, my belief in the team, and then trajectory, right? Death Cards have been on top all league long. I don't know how high they can go. But what I do know is that every team under them, all the way down to 5th place, is on an upwards trajectory. They've been getting better and better as the league goes on. AoE teams in particular, I have a really strong belief in because they have a fantastic org and a lot of really good coaches over there. Some of them just came off of Proving Grounds, and their schedules just got freed up in a big way. So they'll be working with the Diamond teams, trying to get them online. Talking to Riley, talking to their esports director over there, the org is just great. I have unlimited belief in them, even though they don't have like the win-loss ratio to really show it. They have been getting better as the league progressed. So for me, upwards trajectory is more important than really results in and of themselves. So that's what you're looking at there from power ranking perspective. I can read them out for you here. So week 3, going into week 3, we had Lotus on top, then AoE Hope, AoE Unleashed, Death Cards, and then MG Infusion, and then D-Gens and 4 Monkeys 1 Coach to bring up the back end there. The biggest ways the power rankings have changed over the course of the league here at like the halfway point is us really figuring out where teams were headed. I think we got a pretty good idea of where they were at from week 1. 4 Monkeys are on the bottom, D-Gen's near the bottom, MG Infusion around the middle with the AoE teams, and then STC and Lotus on top. And the way that has changed over the course of the league so far has largely been AoE teams moving up, because they got great coaching staff and they practice a lot, really disciplined rosters on both ends. Hope have been together for a really long time. And Unleashed have some storied players from Heavy League in the past. They got Paxax on there, I'm pretty sure. So that's cool. And then, Lotus and Death Cards continuing to perform as expected. There's been some flip-flop between D-Gens and Four Monkeys on the bottom. Four Monkeys got a lot better with the roster change. They also got a lot better just as the league progressed, right? You get more time together, get more synergy, and all that stuff works out really well. So they've been flip-flopping around, trading those bottom two spots. But as far as playoffs, we're a while off. I think you're right. I think top two are maybe locked in here for Lotus and Death Cards. They've only dropped a couple games, and I'm not expecting that to really change. But I think by playoffs time, these AoE teams will be able to take games off of Death Cards and Lotus, and can look to take the whole thing, depending on how much progress they make. But it's definitely not. The divide is getting smaller. It's definitely getting smaller between the top and the bottom. And I'm looking forward to the last couple of weeks of this league when we get to see these teams at their best and get to see them really go at it and be competitive.
Oh,
Could you remind me what the cutoff is for playoffs? Is it top 4, top 5?
It's top 6, I believe.
Top
right?
6, yeah, top 6,
so
and then first and second get a bye.
I see.
So I just wanted to talk about like what you said earlier, right? With SDC Death Cards, you said you don't even have them in your top 2 as power rankings, and I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play both the AoE twins, and then they cap it off with Lotus. So what does it take to convince Axeman that these guys are legit? What if they split the AoE twins 1-1, right? They lose one and they beat one. Do you think Hope and Unleashed are both equal in strength? Like what if they won one? What if they beat Hope and lose to Unleashed, or vice versa, and then they go 1-2 against Lotus? Do you think they're still strong? Like what has to convince you that these guys are top 2? Because I mean, these guys, like you said, top of the league. Their strength of the schedule has been a little bit easier now, and like you said, you believe the AoE boys. But what does SDC have to do? Because I think if they won one AoE, they're legit, right? If they split the games or they split the series 1-1, they beat Hope or Unleashed and lose to either of them, I think they're legitimate in my opinion. But obviously, I don't watch as much Heavy League as you do.
Yeah, no, for me, splitting AoEs would not really do it for me. I think you'd have to beat both AoE squads and beat them pretty significantly for me to take them and move them up here. Yeah, AoE squads are pretty close right now. They didn't start out that way. Hope is a very old team. They've been together for like months, but Unleashed just started, and their caliber of player is super, super high for Unleashed. So they had a rocky start trying to catch up with Hope, but they have at this point. And they're pretty close together. For me, it's like I said, it's about trajectory, right? They're on that upwards trajectory. They're getting better and better. You can take a look at like solo queue ranks for the players on the AoE teams. They're getting better. So it's not just even competitive synergy. It's really just like they're growing players over there at AoE. You can it sounds like they're growing them in a test tube or something, but they're practicing really effectively, and there's a lot of knowledge over there to be shared. Yeah, I think right now you could probably put SCC top 2, and that would make the most sense, but it's almost like I know what's coming, so I don't want to do it.
You're afraid like this take is like you don't want to slam it down and stamp it.
Yeah, I don't want Riley to show up on my front door and be like, "Hey, you ranked us 5th in week 4, and we just won the whole thing. What's the deal with that?" And that doesn't really affect the power rankings. These
you
are
have a lot
incredibly.
Of faith.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith. A lot of faith in the org. A lot of faith in the individual teams too. I'm not the type of analyst that just like sees an org name and like writes them at the top of the list. That's not how I do this. I'm looking at the teams individually, how they're performing, how they're practicing, is really important as well. And that's another thing about AoE. You never like run out of scrim partners, like high level scrim partners. They have diamond level teams in like 5 different leagues. There's always somebody to play with over there, but I don't want to take away from SDC. I think putting them top 4 in a tournament where 6 teams go to playoffs out of 7 is pretty fair. You know, it is very close up there at the top. To answer your question, SDC would have to beat everybody soundly for them to move them.
Oh, so they have to 2-1 or 3-0 everybody.
They would-
AoE, and Lotus.
Yeah, it would be more like a 3-0 situation for me.
Whew.
I know for some other analysts, it would probably just have to be close or be like, you know, a convincing victory. For me, you have to take the whole thing. That's just how my belief is.
Well, you got AOE, you know, with their own Professor Plutonium putting in that chemical S into their test tube, into their test tube players coming through. Confounder, I want to ask you something real quick because I think from a player perspective, talking about teams being together, you know, you've got it's Hope that's been around for a while and Unleash that's new, correct, Axeman? Let me make sure that I got that.
Valor,
Yeah.
I think, is the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
what I
Go
wanted to ask you from a player's perspective is, one, I want to make sure, how long have you been playing with Cape Dogs?
okay, so this is interesting because I've been playing for about 2 months now with them. The roster was formed, I think, the first week of August. And since then, I don't think we've had more than 2 weeks with the exact same players.
Gotcha.
Our mid laner left at some point. Our support had some real life stuff to attend to. It's been really it's been up in the air. And you guys mentioned synergy very early on in the podcast and how important that is. And yeah, it definitely it can impact games for sure.
Yeah,
Personally, I've been playing for 2 months, like I said. I think me and my top laner are the only two ones who are still left of the original squad.
fair enough.
So yeah.
And
Our team is very. Oh, sorry. Good.
no, you're good. Yeah, continue.
Um, our team is pretty new. I think our org is a little bit old. I think they've played in XLNC before. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. And so that, I think, brings up the next question that I think, I mean, everyone can kind of put a touch on in looking at teams and looking at a team that's, say, been around for several months comparatively to a team that does have roster changes. Do you feel and do you see the difference in a team and like, what is the big difference, you would say, that makes a team that has been around for a couple of months, that has put in that practice in? What is the big difference for them comparatively to a team that is a little bit more volatile in their roster? And like, if you are a new team, how do you get to that point? Is it just through scrims? Is it just through practicing? Or is there like a secret ingredient that I don't know about?
The scrims help a lot. Um, Weeks like there's sometimes where we can't find a scrim partner or somebody has to sub out, and those scrims just don't feel as good as when you have all the boys together. And
Yeah.
but if you're a team like CB Rush, I mean, you know, you crush it, right? Like, because you've been around for like you have that sort of that gravitas about you, and I personally I don't stress out about it too much. I kind of just show up and press my buttons, but I can definitely imagine how um if you have a sub in pretty much any role, um it can affect how, like, is this person going to go in? Are they going to play it safe? Like, you have to unlearn and relearn your teammates' their tendencies and their play styles. And one week you might be drafting with a guy who can't play a certain champion, and you have to rethink how you draft. It it's definitely it's not going to make you lose, like, just it's not going to make you fall apart, but it certainly doesn't help. And having that synergy of a long lasting established team playing scrims regularly, playing scrims between other teams in your org especially, um I agree with the narrative that that has a very big impact on success.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And that brings up, I mean, a pretty good point about, you know, how the rest of Heavy League comes through, Axeman. When looking at the playoff picture, obviously you've got 7 teams. coming in. There's going to be one team that's going to be the odd man out. How important is it to say for a team, not necessarily to get the bye, but more so, do you think that teams are thinking about maybe going into the playoffs as that fourth and fifth seed, that they don't have, so they don't have to play against that top seeded team? Is that something that you think that teams in the heavy league are thinking about? I guess maybe that could be talked about in the mid league as well, Shibby. Maybe bouncing off to both you guys in that same question. Is it really that important, or is it a big deal?
I'll start. I don't think it's a very big deal. I think specifically fourth and fifth are pretty close in heavy league, no matter how you spin it. I think if anything, you might be looking at a situation where you have like SCC death cards versus infusion, and that might not be very close. And at that point, maybe we're looking to push for third. But from that standpoint, you're in fifth place, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to say, oh, well, we should have placed 2 places higher, because it's not really, it's not a switch you just flip on and you suddenly, lap 2 teams that are that much better than you, right? So no, I don't think placement, or like, I guess seeding is what we're talking about, is exactly what they're thinking about. I think everyone's just trying to win as many games as they can, and try to hone in on a strategy that works for them, and try to make sure that they're growing as a team. That's been a theme throughout the league since it started, is just how do we adapt iteratively and get better throughout this season. It's good. The best leagues, I think, throughout the course of them, everybody gets better. Sometimes you'll see a league and there's just teams at the bottom, they're not learning anything, they just get stomped, and that's not heavy. Every team learns something and gets a little bit better week on week, and something I really like about the league. But yeah, I don't think they're worried about fourth versus fifth or third versus sixth or anything like that. I think they're just worried about getting better, focusing on their game.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the mentality I've always had, and what I think most teams should have, is that once it's all said and done, like once playoffs are set, everybody's 0-0. Everybody's on a clean slate. Everybody is fighting for their lives right here, other than obviously the first and second seed. But even then, those guys got to worry. They have to do their research. They have to look at teams. Ring rust is something that is very, very prevalent, right? In all across all competitions, right? And ring rust being obviously, if you have a bye, if you have this sort of concept of a bye, that those teams don't play for a while, and they have to kind of shake off their mechanics, because
Yeah.
as Confounder said, scrims and 5v5 flex is not, a game. It's not a series. It's not a playoff game, right? It's very different. People will fall back to comfort. People will fall back to things that they want to play or are more comfortable on. And if you're out of the meta, if you're not picking up things that are good, if you're not picking up champions that are powerful right now, you'll lose. You'll see it all the time. A bunch of top tier teams that get buys that they just lose. They go out like a buster in round 1, unfortunately. So yeah, I think to reiterate or just kind of reinforce Axeman's point, yeah, nobody's worried, I think, in mid league, like who's getting fourth and fifth, who has to face CB Rush in round 2, who doesn't, because I think the mentality you have to have is, yes, it'd be cool to avoid CB Rush, and it'd be nice to avoid these guys, but at the end of the day, it's you guys are playing one best of 5 or one best of 3, and if you don't win, you're out, and if you win, you go on to the next round. Everybody is 0-0, and that's kind of like where I fall, and I think that's where mid league kind of falls, right? You just kind of see it in Confounder when he's talking about like standings and stuff. Like he's like, I'm chilling, because he knows playoffs are different. Playoffs are a different beast, and that's just how it is.
Oh yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's all competitive, all competitive sporting, all any sort of competition that comes through. It's a clean slate once you get into the playoffs. You don't keep that record coming through. A 7th seed can very easily, or a 6th seed at this point, could very easily take down a 1st seed in the right conditions, and it could make it happen. And it's gonna make for some great content as well. Axeman, any final thoughts on Heavy League coming in from you? Before we move on.
Not for me, but tune in Thursdays. We're streaming the show matches, and it's a good time. Show up for pre-show a little bit early, and we'll get you caught up.
For sure, for sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you guys have I've tuned in. It sucks that I work like as the leagues are starting, so I only get to watch some of the pre-shows that are coming through. Family Feud was fun. For
Yeah.
sure. And I'm very excited to see what you guys continue to bring to the table because it's gonna be a blast. Uh we are what are we? We're running on around 90 minutes or so right now, a little bit less than 90 minutes here on the show. But before we go, I think that there's a couple of things that maybe we can touch on outside of XLNC, and one of them being Worlds. Worlds coming up, gonna be a ton of fun, gonna be a blast. Uh, any any predictions? Anything that you guys are looking forward to? Worlds esports competitive wise?
Oh, like, are you just saying, like, um,
Like, I want to talk about Worlds for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about worlds, and I think a cool concept that I always like to talk is the what is it, the 90%, 50%, 10% take, where it's like what was most likely gonna happen, what may happen, and what is just out of the ballpark.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do that.
Uh,
Yep.
I love that. So I guess we can start with like our 90% takes, and we can just go around, right?
All
With
right.
Confounder, and I'd love to start with Confounder first, if he's paying attention to worlds or not. Just
Personally, I don't have very much time to because I am a full-time student. You know, I've got this and that going on. Um, in terms of power rankings, I
or
would just go. Sorry, go ahead.
no. I was just saying, like, what is your like 90% take? Like, what do you think will most likely happen at Worlds 2021? Like, oh, I don't know, FPX will make it out of groups or something like that.
I think history repeats itself. I really do. Like the meta isn't like the meta is very stable. Every single role has, you know, a relatively similar amount of impact. It's not like season 8, if I remember correctly, where the solo laners just ran over everything. You had the Shy going crazy, you had Showmaker going crazy. Um, I think teams that have that, kind of like we mentioned earlier, that synergy about them, they're going to do the best. I think um, Dom1's looking strong, EDG is looking strong, T1's looking strong. I think I think the fact that some of the NA teams were as close as they were going into Worlds, it makes it a little, you know, I worry for them. Unfortunately, it's the classic meme, NA at Worlds, haha, mega lol. But um, I'm rooting. I'm rooting for him. I want to see another C9 take out a Freak of Freaks level type thing. I want that to happen. That's yeah. But
And
I think history is going to repeat itself. I think things are going to go about as expected. As yeah.
yeah, I would
So
say my. Oh, you go.
so
First, go.
Confounder's 90% is that NA does not make it out of groups.
I didn't want to say it out loud, but
That's
yeah.
Confounder's 90%.
I'm
I just
sorry.
figured I'd say it out loud for you. Go ahead, Shibby.
Yeah, that's my. That's look. NA. I've been watching League of Legends since season 2. So since TPA. If hopefully I don't. Hopefully I'm not speaking to any like you. Someone has to know what I'm talking about. Since TPA was
yeah.
Worlds.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
TPA was my first Worlds.
Yeah.
I've been playing since season 2. But I
Exactly.
really remember season 3 though. I remember season 3. Don't get me wrong. SK, me being the goons that they are. I mean, super goons in that regard. Those are the days. Thanks for dating me, Shibby.
But yeah, so like I said, I've been a Worlds fan or League fan since TPA, right? Season 2, guys. I'm old, and it's just the steady decline. Like all the people that I've been watching since like 2016, 2017, they know NA's bad. Like they went into NA being bad, but just like watching NA get worse and worse and worse, and it's like, oh, at least we have C9, and it's like, okay, we usually had one team that would try to make it out of groups, right? And for me, yeah, the 90% take, I have to complete. I've with Confounder. Like we do have a stronger groups this year in terms of team strength of NA than we did last year. I honestly thought that TSM, FlyQuest, and like it was just a sham. Those teams were like faux teams.
Yeah.
Like I knew they weren't going to make it out of groups. But like having Abadage on 100 Thieves, having clutch perks like this guy, like I will believe in perks until he lets me down. That's the thing, right? Because this guy has clutched up so many times on the highest of level. Like this is the dude that made World's Finals not too long ago. This is the guy that won MSI, right? This is the dude that was part of that Korean killer. This dude like is a Korean killer team. So if they can get into like a group, a play-in where there's a weaker-ish Korean team, they have a very high chance of upsetting. So yeah, it's my 90% take is that they don't make it out of groups still, but I think we do a better showing. We don't have any 06s, I think. No more 06s. I think it's 3-3 across the board, unfortunately. Yeah, NA has yet to take a group emphatically, right? Where they're 4-2, where they beat their EU counterpart and they lose to the number 1 seed. NA has yet to do that. So, yeah, that's my 90% take.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna be the odd man out. I have faith in 100 Thieves. Okay, I have faith. I will pray to the gods above, not to the gods, but to the gods above. And salute the sun and say, hey, 100 Thieves, can you take on EDG? Can you take on T1 and show us what you got? I mean, I'm optimistic that we will see an NA team in the playoffs, and I think that 100 Thieves has the best chance to do it. Team Liquid, for me, I'm not. It was just such a mess in the summer split. It was just such a disaster. It felt like for me. I never felt like Team Liquid was able to really get into a really good flow, into a good rhythm. Now that they've had maybe a little bit more practice, maybe they've had a little bit of time to reset some things, maybe it's a different story. I'm not confident until I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Santa is real in some child's eyes. And in my eyes as well. I will believe in Santa, but I need to see it. I need to see it happen. 100 Thieves is my go-to when it comes to that. I'm really excited though, for me personally, like out of an NA standpoint, I'm really excited for Mad Lions. I was really excited for what they were able to bring to the table at MSI. I am excited, and I've seen what they've been able to bring to the table now. I would love to see a Dark Horse Mad Lions make a deep run, make it happen, show us what they got.
Are they the dark horse though? Like their group, they can easily take first.
Oh yeah,
Like
100%.
Like it's Gen G, Team Liquid, and then a play-in team, right? Which I think is actually going to be the Chinese play-in team. It's just going to go into there. So I believe that's LNG, right, with Tarzan, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, and so Mad Lions can take first.
Yeah.
And so usually what happens is, right, it's the number 1 seeds play the number 2 seeds of other groups, right? And that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
So they can potentially play Group C's number 2 seed, which is either Fnatic or Royal Never Give Up. They can play group. The worst drawing is if they play Group A's number 2 seed, which is either Dam1 or Fun Plus. That's where those. If you play either of those teams, because I don't think Rogue gets out. I think Rogue can affect the standings, and they can maybe, if they beat Dam1 or beat Fun Plus one of those games, they can kind of mess that up. I don't think they get out of standings, but Mad Lions, yeah, I think they can make a deep run as long as they don't run into Dam1 or Fun Plus in the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken, because they would have to play the number 2 seed from either Group A, B, or C, and I think they can beat T1. I think they beat 100 Thieves, and I think they definitely beat Fnatic and RNG. Like they can do that. I think they have the skill set and the team and the skill set and just the just how dominant they looked, right?
Yeah.
Shibby, we live in the greatest timeline. Unicorns of Love make it into the finals.
Yeah, UL makes it to finals, and they play against Dam1, and then EU wins, and then everybody just poops on NA again because that's what happens because NA is just horrible. Axeman, what is your 90% take?
So just to clarify, Moose's 90% is that Mad Lions make it to semis?
I think that's. Yes. I think Mad Lions makes a deep run.
All right, cool. My 90%, just to keep it short, is FPX will win Worlds, and it's not close.
It's not close at all.
It's not close. Not even close. Stormy's the best player in the world. All right, you guys want to do 50s?
I think we just go to. I think for time's sake, I think we just go 10%. I think
Just go
50% is
10?
whatever.
All right,
Let's just
cool.
go with 10 and same order. Confounder, what's your 10% take? What is like something that so wild, like you'll be hanged at the cross, you'll be put up there, r/League of Legends, and be like, this guy, like, get him out of league. What is that? What is your 10%
Alright.
take?
Should I do it for every group or just one or two?
Just your 10% take overall from all the
Okay.
teams. Like what is like your, like, you know what? And you want to argue it. It's not just a 10% take and you just throw it like a dart in the wind. Like, you have to kind of try to argue it.
Okay. I'll do my best here. I think Group A, that's a group of death. Anyone who
Yeah.
goes into that, that's unlucky. You know, you saw Yankos' face when he drew Rogue into that. It speaks for itself. Group D though, Group D is looking like, you know, you've got Mad Lions, Gen G, TL, like these are great teams, but historically they've choked. And I think that's part of the reason why, as you mentioned earlier, Mad Lions might make it in the top two.
I like where
I
this
think
is going.
TL might make it into top two in that team, even though,
Yeah.
you know, they've been struggling a fair bit, but it's like if Genji chokes and Mad Lions choke, then okay, you know, there might be an argument there. I don't think they'll get much further past groups if they do happen to get it, but you know, I've seen crazier things before. Yeah, I think my 10%, I think that's my best argument is TL make it out of groups, but you know.
TL make it out of groups. You know,
I
I can.
know but it's a you
No,
said
no,
10%.
I can see it. I
You
can
said
see it. I
10%.
can see it. I can
I
see it.
think
I
that's
can
the
see it.
only. I think that's the only group that can be upset. I think everything else is pretty much locked in my opinion. Like Group
Yeah.
A, I think it's Dom1 FPX, and then Rogue, someone else get kicked
Well,
out of that. I think Group C, it's the same thing. I think the top two teams in that. I think Group B, you know, T1 not quite as good as EDG in my opinion, but I don't think 100 Thieves is gonna be
Yeah,
getting
no.
in there personally.
Oh man.
I think that 10%, I think if NA has any hope at all, it's Mad Lions and Gen G just choke. I think that's the only, I think that's the 10% possibility. It might even be like 5 or 4, honestly. But, you know, if we're shooting for the stars, I want to say TL get out of groups. Even if they do, I think they immediately lose in quarterfinals. But I gotta work with what I gotta work with.
Nice.
You know?
No arguments here.
okay, you guys are gonna hate me, and I already know you guys are gonna hate me, but I think my 10% take right now
Yeah.
is that PSG Talon makes it out of Group C.
I like it. I like that. That's
Fnatic.
good.
So it's Fnatic, RNG, and then the LCK team that goes into there, it's either Hanwha Life, right, or it can't be Beyond Gaming. It can't be anybody else. Like, Hanwha Life is pretty much guaranteed to go in there. And as much as I love Chovy and as much as I love Deft and all of them, like PSG Talon, they're Korean killers, man.
Yep.
Like they are consistently, like, that team, like that region. It was LMS, right? That's what it was, essentially. And PSG Talon have the personnel, in my opinion, to, like, I'm not gonna say they top one the group, right? I think RNG has their number. These guys scrim all the time. And each year they have been getting closer and closer to, like, getting out of groups. And I think if any year it's primed for them to get out with Fanatics, with Fnatic, who has like a relatively fresh roster, right? Or of new, not fresh in the sense of like these are new players, but the team has only been together as a unit for what, 1 year right now. Like, you look at PSG Talon's roster, Hanabi in the top lane, River in the jungle, who's Korean, Maple at mid lane, right? You have bot laner Unified, and you have Kaiwing in the support. Unified was one of the top ADCs in PCS, by the way. Like, this guy's nuts, right? And we saw what PSG Talon did at the midsummer, not midsummer, sorry, the MSI, right? They can take games off of NA teams, right? So,
Ooh, I think you've convinced me actually.
Yeah.
I think you've convinced me. I think that is
like,
actually more
it's
likely.
a good
Yeah.
10.
Group
It's a
Group
good
C.
10.
So Group
The Group
C
C is pretty
is,
tough. Yeah.
if C9 get in there or Hanwha Life, like, PSG has a really, really good chance of taking second.
Hmm.
Because I think
It might even be
Okay,
a 15 or
okay.
something. That's pretty good.
I think
Yeah.
Hanabi smashes Adam,
He's so good,
and
man.
I think River
yeah.
Maple can definitely match up against Bwipo Niski. I hope this gets clipped or whatever, but I think Group C PSG Talon makes it out. I am not kidding. I think they make it out at second. It's RNG, PSG, and it's gonna be because of some tomfoolery that happens with whatever the playing team is in there. I think Fnatic, I think Royal Give Up may drop a game to PSG, and I think that what ruins it. It's gonna be that. PSG Talent, that's my 10% take. PSG Talent gets out of Group C.
Nice.
All right.
All right, Moose.
All right.
What do you got?
You guys have probably done all of the actual like Spock logical 10% coming through. I'm gonna give you my 1%, my 0.1% dream scenario. I'm gonna go back to Unicorns of Love. All right, it's gonna happen. They're gonna get out of group. They're gonna get out of Group B. Okay, this is the dream. Okay, Unicorns of Love gets out of Group B and into Group A. Right, they face off against Don One and FPX. Take a game off of both of them. Because we've seen Unicorns of Love in the past. They have been able to take games. They haven't been able to take series wins. They haven't been able to move for far into the draft, but they have been able to take wins. And they've taken wins against some teams that have actually been fairly decent. What was it? Like, it's fairly recently. Like, they've taken decent games. Like, they've taken a game or two off of teams, and, it was like, oh, it's so great. They actually made something happen. I'm so happy for them. But no, that's my 1%. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. Unicorns of Love just gets the perfect draft every time. Someone has just, I don't know what would have to happen in order for them to be able to get out of the play-in groups. But something amazing, incredible. Just wait, just watch it happen. Just watch it play out. You'll thank me later and you'll call me prophet from that point on, and it'll be great. It'll be great.
I think they can beat Beyond in Group B. I think it could be C9 UOL. Like LCL is they're a very well funded league. It's not like they don't have any scrim partners in EU, right? Like
Yeah.
they could. I think they could do it. Like it's not. It is a 10% take, 100%, but it's like one of those 10% takes where it's like, if you talk me through it, if you like look at their infrastructure, I'm like, that could realistically happen there.
I'm so excited. I can't wait for it to actually be the reality, the world that comes through. It's gonna happen, man.
Okay, Axe. So we've got one guy saying NA gets it out of groups. We've got one guy saying PCS gets it out of groups, and we have one man saying that UOL gets it out of groups. What is your 10% take?
My 10% is a little strange. First, some backstory. Because of various political happenings that I won't get into. TCL, which is the Turkish league, and CB LOL, which is the Brazilian league, have this rivalry in international play. They don't get to play each other too often, which makes it all the more like vicious when they actually do. And in play-ins, they weren't in the same groups this year either. Red Canids are in Group A, and Galatasaray is in Group B from TCL. My 10% is that both Galatasaray and Red Canids get out of play-ins, are put in groups, and then make it out of groups and play each other. My 10%.
That's a 1%.
Nope, I think it's 10. I think they're really
That's
good.
Argue it. I need you. Okay, argue the Group A, Group B. How do they get out? How do you see Red Cannons beating LNG or Hanwha? Why?
So Red Canids, for the majority of the regular season, were dealing with issues like from COVID. They were having a hard time, trying to think of the word, quarantining, and trying to make sure that their players weren't getting sick. They also had to play remotely from Sao Paulo when everybody else, all the other teams, are in Rio. So they had a really rough time. When they got to playoffs, when they got to postseason, they leveled up because they played locally, and they got CBL's COVID rules, I guess, and ended up having a much better time of dealing with COVID that way. I think as they go to Iceland, it's the same thing, right? Ping is going to be, probably even better than local in Rio. They're going to have even better COVID restrictions and stuff like that. They're going to be super healthy, feeling really good. And then on the flip side, I think Galatasaray is the best that TCL has ever put out. I think they're the strongest org that TCL can possibly create. Galatasaray has a very storied, long history as a football club in Turkey. They take games off of like Real Madrid. They take games off of world-class football teams. And I think their esports team is coming into its own as well. It's all about that money, baby. That's all it takes. It might take a couple seasons, but once you get online, it's all about the color of your green, and Galatasaray has the green. I think this team from TCL is going to be the best they ever put out. I think they will not only make it out of plans, but they'll make it out of groups.
I mean, I'm looking at their roster, right? They have 2 Korean players, which I mean, obviously isn't the best all the time.
Yeah.
These guys, they played, Alive and Crazy. Crazy looked like, okay, he played for BBQ, SKT, Rogue Warriors. Okay, these guys got. It's hard convincing me of cannons, because the thing with cannons is you're telling me essentially that they're doing the Rock Lee like training weight thing.
Yeah.
Where like
Yeah.
they or the hyperbolic time chamber, whatever age you're from, guys. I mean, I can even go further back if you want, but it seems like Canids to me is like they've just been playing as stacked odds against them all, and now that they're finally on LAN, they're LANimals. Like they're gonna have like really good scrims. They're gonna have like 7 ping, 6 ping scrims. Like this is a team where you believe that despite everything that's happened to them, they've come out on top, and it's just kind of scary. They're almost like you don't know their power level because of everything. Well, on the side of Galatasaray, it's almost like money is cash is king, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Or money is power. And they have 2 Korean players. They have Bolulu in the mid, who we've seen already perform pretty well. And you just think that they'll get it out of group. So I think that's, you know what? Like I thought you were crazy, Axe. But I think, I mean, obviously that Group B prediction contradicts Moose's, right? Because it's either UOL or Galatasaray, or maybe both of them get out in Cloud9 and Beyond. Just maybe both of them get out.
God. That's the 0.1%. The 0.1% prediction that comes through. You never know. You never know though, and that's what we love about competitive esports and competitive gaming just in general. And I think we've gotten pretty good at talking about worlds. A shout out to Shibby. I liked that. The 90 to the 50 to the 10. That's that's meta right there.
That was a fun
I
one.
like it.
That was good.
I liked it. That was really good. But I think that we've had a pretty solid showing here. We talked about all 3 of the leagues. We've gotten to be able to talk about a couple of different aspects about not only, our leagues in general, but then also League of Legends as a whole, which has been phenomenal. I want to put it around the room one more time, starting with you, Shibby. Final thoughts, final words. We'll go down to Confounder. I keep on calling you Co-founder. I'm like, you're some CEOs or something. You're just that you're the big businessman. The hair is phenomenal, by the way. Shout out. I wish. I mean, I'm balding now, so I'm like sad.
Man.
That's why I got the hat,
okay.
man. You got
It's
the
okay,
hat
dude.
tech.
We're all balding here.
It's the casters. It's the caster. I don't even, oh my god. What's a hair
Curse.
word that starts with C? The caster curse or
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know.
We're molding. We're all molding together.
we're all molding. But yeah, Shibby, and then we'll go down to Confounder, and then we'll leave it out with Axeman. Shibby, final thoughts, final prayers.
Prayers. I mean, just final thoughts, right? I think specifically in regards to mid league, like we said, insane is an understatement. I think you guys have to tune in on the Wednesdays. It's really getting heated. And all of the show matches we have turned out to be bangers, right? Other than week 1, every single show match, whether it's been Mingos, whether it's been Cape Dogs, whether it's been anybody else, right? Bucky's, all these guys, it's been really exciting, and it's gonna be interesting to see how everything shakes up. Obviously, shout outs to Moose, Axeman, Confounder for taking the time out of your guys' day. You guys are all, in the future times, as I like to say, because I'm in the West Coast. It's only like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. here. You guys
It's
took
8
time
p.m.
out
for
of your...
me too. I live in Vegas, so we got you. I got you.
Okay, yeah. So again, obviously, shout out to Axe and Confounder. You guys are in the future, and you guys are just taking time out of your day, taking your time out of your night to come out here and obviously just talk about League of Legends, right? Which is really nice. And obviously, last shout outs to the staff, Jake, Axeman. Of course, you're also producing here. If you guys didn't figure that out yet, based off of the graphics and everything, Axe is producing, and obviously, shout outs to Cam and everybody in the back, everybody.
Perfect. And we'll drop it down to you, Confounder.
All right, so I guess for my last couple of thoughts, it's just gonna be, yeah, we've got a really important game next week against Bucky's, and it's gonna be streamed. It's gonna be a banger. Uh, no pressure on me, you know, but I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it'll be a 3-0. I'm expecting a 1-2 or a 2-1. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Shout outs to my top and mid, Senjo and Yeetloaf. Like they just smurf it down every single game. Like they're like I don't know if you've seen Yeetloaf's MVP numbers, but he's chopping every single chart. Like they definitely hold it. They hold it down for sure.
Perfect. Axeman, what you got?
I got self promo. I got ad reads. Just get it right off. At Axeman87cast on Twitter. AM grind. What's in your grinder? Buy the coffee. The 10% discount. It's super good, and we get paid for it. But if you could message Jake and tell him to give us a raise, that would be great. As well, that would be nice. Very helpful. I made these graphics myself. You might not have noticed, but I'm very talented. Also, just tune out, watch the leagues. Show up and show up early for pre-shows, stuff like that, and make sure you're supporting the leagues. We make a pretty good product here at XLNC for the amount of money and resources we're given. So I think it's definitely worth watching, definitely worth paying attention to. And if you look at some of the people that are working in the echelons above us, in Proving Grounds, in Academy, all that stuff, they started here. So if that's somewhere you want to be and you want to start casting, start working in this job, this is a great place to start. And I encourage you to reach out to people like Jake, like Moose, myself, Shibby, and any of the other casters, and we can get you set up and get you started.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Axeman. That was great. Again, yeah, AM Grind. I can't believe I forgot about AM Grind. I'm not drinking my coffee late at night anymore, and I'm forgetting about the 10% off that they provide. But that is going to do it today for the weekly war, the weekly axe here at XLNC. Shout out again to Shibby. We've got Axeman. We've got Confounder. And then as well as myself, my name is Mr. Moose. It has been a ton of fun on behalf of everyone here at the analyst desk, the staff behind the scenes at XLNC, you guys, the viewers, the players in all of our leagues, and myself. Have a great weekend, everyone. Have a great week. Stay safe. Stay healthy. See you guys next time.